Poverty rarely comes as an unexpected visitor who knocks on the door. Most of the time, she enters sneaky through our own words, everyday habits, and small concessions we do without realizing it. It is as if we build a prison around us, brick by brick, until one day we realize the walls are too high and the door closed alone. The hardest truth is that poverty is not a punishment of fate, but the accumulated result of errors that we repeat day after day. Almost an automatic dot when we say things like, anyway, money will not give, or this is not for me. These phrases turn into self realizable prophecies. Each time we postpone an important decision to tomorrow, this tomorrow never really comes. And when we convince ourselves that we don't deserve more than we have, we are signing our own financial verdict. The trap is just there. We think poverty comes from outside when we actually feed it with our attitudes every day. Millennial wisdom already warned of it. She teaches that the world is not shaped by the circumstances, but by the words we pronounce and the actions we practice. Small habits that seem harmless are turning into invisible currents that pull us down. Over time, they make poverty not an accident in the course, but a natural consequence of our choices. Think of the parable of that man who every morning gathered gold grains, but at night lost more than he had accumulated without realizing it. He blamed his fate, the neighbors, the government, not noticing that he left the doors of his home wide open. The wind carried everything he had kept with so much effort. So we act too. We complain about others, but we do not see our own open doors where our work and our opportunities drip. Here is the crucial point. Poverty does not start in the pocket, but in the mind. Scholars like Daniel Kahneman explain that we think through two systems, one fast and automatic, another slow and reflective. It is in the first that of instant habits and reactions that the mistakes that steal money to us without realizing it. They have become so natural that we don't even notice them anymore, but they are exactly the shape what we call our destiny. Viktor Frankl reminded us that even when we have no control over the circumstances, we always have power over our attitude towards them. If we choose words of scarcity, they become the internal law that governs our lives. But if we choose words of responsibility and growth, even the most difficult situations, we can emerge stronger. That's why it is essential to stop now and ask yourself, what errors I repeat every day without realizing it? What pronouncement phrases that become prophecies? What habits justify, even knowing that they are little, impoverishing me little by little? This reflection may be painful, but without it, it is impossible to break the poverty cycle. One of the worst traps of poverty is the tendency to always look for external culprits. Phrases like the government gets in the way, the rich seal, or I was born in the wrong place sound like excuses, but they are actually silent poisons. Each time we transfer responsibility out, we are delivering our power of change. As ancient wisdom says, whoever blames others remains slave. If it is always the other's fault, then there is nothing we can do to change. But when we assume, I made a mistake, this is when the door for transformation opens. Poverty feeds precisely from this lack of responsibility. Imagine someone who is next to a well with a bucket and rope, but dies of thirst. It blames the sun, the neighbors, the luck, without realizing that the water is right there, within its reach. Just extend your hand and pull the bucket. The same is true of money. Opportunities are present, but the habit of blaming others keeps us from seeing them. Modern psychology calls this mental trap. Kahneman explained that our brain prefers easy explanations. It's more comfortable saying it's not my fault than recognizing our own mistakes. But it is exactly this kind of thought that keeps poverty alive. An old story illustrates this well. A shoemaker complained that he had no customers, saying that everyone bought from competitors and that fate was against him, until a sage said to him, "First ask yourself if your shoes are comfortable. If not, improve them." The craftsman followed the counsel, perfected his work, and soon did not realize so many requests. The problem was never at the destination, but in its reluctance to take responsibility. Angela Duckworth calls it grit, a combination of persistence and passion. But this determination is born only when we stop complaining and start acting. Poverty nourishes with lamentations, while prosperity arises from consistent and systematic work. As Greg McKeown said, the principle is less, but better. When we blame the world, we disperse our energy. But when we recognize our mistakes, we can see what is superfluous and focus on what really matters. Jewish tradition has always valued Shabbat as a moment of pause for reflection. It is in the silence that we stop blaming the outside and look inside. In stillness, it is clear poverty or wealth start with what we choose to say and do. Most err by believing that the changes will come from outside, but true wisdom teaches that every transformation is born first within us. This is the first step towards real abundance. Another mistake that impoverishes us silently is the habit of postponing. Then, not now, when you have more time, these words seem harmless, but they turn years into missed opportunities. Imagine a wheel that only spins when you drive it. If you stop pushing, it loses speed until it falls. The same is true of our projects. Every tomorrow we say makes energy dissipate. And when we realize we have lost valuable years. In the Jewish tradition, there is a saying, what is not done today will not be done tomorrow. It is not in a hurry, but of clarity. Each action has its right moment. If we let it pass, it no longer comes back. The story of a market trader exemplifies this. He knew he needed to run a better point, but always said, I'll wait. When it finally decided, the space had already been occupied. Then he planned to expand his tent, but kept postponing. A year later, his competitors were far ahead. All because your words have always been later. Modern habits researchers like James Clear explain that it is the small daily steps that create progress systems. If we do at least one action every day, we build a path that takes us forward. But if we post every day, we create a system that paralyzes our growth. Ancient wisdom teaches that the habit of procrastinating is more dangerous than poverty itself, for it can be temporary, while it makes it permanent. Kahneman has shown that our brain tends to choose the easiest way. We think tomorrow will be easier, but this is an illusion. Tomorrow will always be harder because our forces run out and problems accumulate. One student once asked a rabbi, when is the best time to start studying? The answer was, if you have one tomorrow, start tomorrow. But if you only have today, start today. This is a wisdom that dismantles the illusion of after. A small action is always worth more than a perfect plan. As Ryan Holiday said, the obstacle is the way. When we postpone, the obstacle becomes a mountain. But when we take the first step today, the mountain turns into a step. This is another mistake that steals us money and opportunities without realizing it. It steals percentages, opportunities, and connections without realizing it. It transforms poverty into something chronic, and the only way to stop it is to act now, without waiting for tomorrow. The third trap that empties your pocket is inattention to the little things. Those who live in scarcity often say, it doesn't matter, they are awful. But it is exactly in the awful that is built or destroys the fortune. Imagine a bucket with a tiny crack. Drop after drop, the water drips, and in the end you wonder why, no matter how much it fills, it is never full. Do not see the leak. Such are the finances. Small impulsive spending, unnecessary concessions and choices without reflection drain more than a great damage. As Morgan Housel noted, people care about great sums, but lose fortunes in everyday habits. Hundreds of micro decisions shape the fate of your money. To ignore them is to ensure that poverty becomes a natural cycle. There is a revealing story about a co-merchant in a Jewish village, generous but careless. It gave a little more to each client, not out of kindness, but for not giving importance to small amounts. At the end of the month, he complained that there was no profit. An older sage said to him, you are not poor for lack of money, but for lack of attention. Respect every coin, and they will respect you. Cal Newport talks about deep work, and attention is a more valuable resource, and this also applies to money. When the mind is dispersed, the resources escape. But when you learn to focus even on seemingly insignificant details, they begin to multiply. Jewish tradition illustrates this in the preparation for Shabbat. Everything is organized in advance, even the smallest gestures, creating an atmosphere of respect for time and life. It is the care of the small that generates the feeling of abundance. Most err right here think this makes no difference, but each small choice forms a habit, and the habit becomes a system. As James Clear wrote in Atomic Habits, even the most trivial action sign, routine, reward reinforces a new cycle. That is why Jewish wisdom teaches poverty does not start when you have little, but when you fail to notice the little. Wealth, on the other hand, is born of respect for every penny, every minute, every word. It is not a matter of greed, but responsibility. Who is prosperous values both the minimum and the maximum. Who is poor despises the minimum and loses the maximum. The fourth failure that drains your finances is to live without purpose. When a person does not know why he works or where he walks, his efforts disperses like grains of sand in the wind. It spends energy, but does not reap fruits. Viktor Frankl already said that the meaning gives the human being resilience even in the worst adversities. Without it, any obstacle becomes an excuse to stop. With the money, it's no different. If you don't define what you want to accumulate, it will always run between your fingers. Jewish tradition repeats, each step must have a direction. In the Torah, the way is a constant metaphor without goal. The road becomes a maze. The individual walks in circles and wonders why he does not advance. A young trader exemplifies this. He opened his store daily, but without plan. Now I bought too much, sometimes forgot the essentials. Your business sank. Only when a mentor asks you, why do you open this store? What is your purpose? And he couldn't answer. He realized the void. By defining its mission, supporting the family, and offering quality products, the results began to improve. The purpose directed. Simon Sinek reinforces start with why. Money is never an end in itself, it is a tool for something larger. As long as there is no clarity in this why, the finances do not stabilize. This trap is treacherous because it is invisible. You can work hard, but without focus, your efforts do not accumulate like trying to fill a boring basket. Rabbi Jonathan Sachs talked about the value of the breaks when we stop to ask, why am I doing this? Clearness arises, and it is this clarity that transforms work into wealth and chaos into order. Modern ideas echo this principle. Greg McKeown, in Essentialism, argues less, but better. With a definite goal, you eliminate the superfluous. Without it, grabs everything within reach and loses the essentials. True poverty is not the lack of money, but the lack of purpose. Until it is found, no amount will be sufficient. Its environment defines its limits. When poverty is seen as normal around you, even with talents and opportunities, you will remain stuck to it. The story of a young man in Jerusalem illustrates this. He dreamed of starting his own business, but every night he met with friends who only talked about how bad everything was and how nothing would change. Little by little, he stopped believing in his own ideas. Only when he lived with people who built, experienced, and advanced, their results began to appear. His thinking has changed, and life followed this new direction. Carol Dweck talks about the growth mindset, but she is not born in the emptiness. It feeds on the words you hear daily. If around you only echo speeches of defeat, this mindset will not find room to flourish. But if conversations are of hope and action, you get stronger. As Ryan Holiday recalls, the obstacle is the way. However, for a note the way in the obstacle, you need to be among those who also see possibilities. If your circle only sees walls, you will never find doors. This trap steals your money gradually. She subtracts her dreams and turns them into ashes. It makes you settle for crumbs and believe you don't deserve it anymore. Greg McKeown defends the less, but better principle, and sometimes the best way to enrich is to remove from your life who impoverishes it. Even if they are few people, their impact can be devastating. Jewish tradition values family and community, but a community must raise, not drag down. True wealth is born where there is support and respect. The mistake of many is to think that poverty comes down to money. In fact, it is also in the conversations you absorb. If you want to change your destiny, start changing the circle you live in. All of these flaws act like invisible thieves. They are not suddenly, they are slowly stealing every day. Complaints, procrastination, sloppiness with details, purposeless life, seeking for shortcuts, living with those who pull it backwards. Together they create a poverty that seems fate, but the truth is different. It is not fate. They are habits. The summary is straightforward. You build your poverty and also your wealth. She doesn't come by chance or disappear for no reason. It is born of your words, thoughts, actions, and the environment you choose. When you transform them, life changes with them. What really changes a destination? 1. Responsibility. Stop blaming others. 2. Action. Do today, not tomorrow. 3. Attention. Value every detail, every minute, every feature. 4. Purpose. Know why you work. 5. Patience. Reject the easy paths. 6. Environment. Be close to those who advance. A practical plan for today. 1. Take a sheet and write down 3 phrases you repeat about money. Analysis. Are they stealing their future too? Perform a task that has been ahead. That take 5 minutes, but do it today. 3. Identify someone in your circle that inspires you and talk to that person. Let your words be seeds for you. 4. At the end of the day, thank what you already have. Gratitude attracts more abundance. Jewish wisdom teaches you are not weak. You just forgot the power of discipline and meaning. Recover the strength, and poverty will not be able to hold you. Remember, errors steal your money, but you can stop them now. Start today. May your words be the power and their actions, steps towards wealth. Here, without fuss, only the practical wisdom that transforms lives.